Why do you want everything you want? You want to wear those clothes, you want to go on holiday, you want your football team to win, you want it to be nice weather. You want what you want in life because you believe it's going to give you pleasure. That's why it speaks to you. If this happens, then I'll get pleasure from it, so that's why you want it. So that's why people are saying, well, I'm going to smoke that and eat that and watch that and do that. Why? Because I'm going to get pleasure from it. Do you understand that? Very important. The problem is we're selling out for very superficial, temporary pleasures. Pleasures that don't last that long. I ask many people about this. What's the most pleasurable part of your day? It's sad how many people say getting into bed. At the end of the day, it's amazing. Oh, you know what? It's been a long day. Get into bed. Oh my, you know how that feels. It feels so good. Curling up. It's like, oh, this is a bed. That's a tragedy. It's a tragedy of getting into bed is that most pleasurable part of your day, the thing you're looking forward. You know what I'm looking forward to most today? Getting it. And the most difficult thing for people is getting up in the morning. Someone said to me the other day, you know what, Rabbi, I want to sleep less. How can I sleep less? And I said, love life more. The more you love life, the less you want to sleep. I hate sleeping. If you're driven by pleasure, that's why you do everything you want to do. You have to understand that the greatest pleasure you can get, until we start talking about the spiritual pleasures, the greatest pleasure you can get is improving yourself and improving the world. There's nothing more pleasurable than that. Letting go of all your negativity and tapping into positivity is the most pleasurable thing you can possibly do. So you just got to want it. You got to want it enough to put in the effort to get it. Just don't put a lit cigarette in your mouth ever again. Don't buy it, take it out of your pocket, open the packet, take it out, put it in your fingers, get the light. It takes about 8 stages to smoke. Just don't do one of them. Choose one of them, don't do it. So why can't people give up smoking? If they want to give up smoking, why can't they give up smoking? Because they also want to smoke. It feels good. It feels really nice. Smoking feels nice. So now you've got a clash. You've got this battle of desires. You always do the one you want to do more. So you're craving a cigarette. You're craving a cigarette. I have to have a cigarette. And you got the cigarette. What's going to give you more pleasure? You always do the one that you want to do more because it gives you more pleasure. So what gives you more pleasure, smoking or not? Well, in the moment, smoking gives you a lot more pleasure. By the way, it's a very low level pleasure. Most people's pleasures in life, by the way, are just taking them from minus. I really need a cigarette. I've lost my peace of mind. I'm stressed. I'm anxious. I'm frustrated. And so you're at minus 10 and then you have the cigarette. And you're like, and you come all the way up to 0. And you're like, it feels so good. That's so sad. It's like, I stick my finger in your eye and then I take it out and you're like, oh, wow, amazing. That feels so good. So most people's pleasure, you have a job you don't really like and it's difficult and you have these difficult relationships, difficult boss. You get home and you just sit there and you watch Netflix and smoke weed and say, it's so pleasurable. Why? Because it's just getting you away from the pain. There's a higher level of pleasure than taking away the pain. Most people's pleasures nowadays are just because I'm not having to deal with my pain. But there's a higher level of pleasure, which is improving myself, improving the world, impacting people, impacting myself, becoming a kinder person, nicer person. That's a much higher level of pleasure. In fact, we're going to talk about this in the next session. Let's say that cigarette. You want to have the cigarette or get out of bed in the morning. The alarm goes, I want to go for a run. What's going to give you more pleasure? Stay in bed or go for a run? In the moment, stay in bed, definitely. To get out of bed, in fact, is going to give you pain. It's going to be hard. Oh God, it's so cold, isn't it? But once you get your shorts on and you go and you get into the park and there's no one else there because it's very early in the morning, and you start running in the crisp air and you start feeling, wow, this is a much higher level of pleasure. It's a much higher quality pleasure. And then you come home and then you have a smoothie and then you meditate. If you turn over, go back to sleep, wake up at 10:30 and smoke some weed, and it's not actually giving you pleasure. It's not giving you greatness. And the greatest pleasure, we're going to talk about this later, is the pleasure of self-respect. I lived up to my values. I became a greater person. I touched other people's lives. That's the real pleasure. So you can be driven by this pleasure, but just don't sell out for these temporary pleasures. Netflix and weed and pizza and stuff like that, that will never give you a great life. It will never give you true happiness. Even if you smoke the weed first, that's not going to give you a great life, because a great life isn't temporary pleasures. meaningless, temporary, selfish pleasures. A great life is becoming the greatest person you become.